Hello everybody, my name is Kelly and I will be your fiddle teacher for healing our spirits, reconnecting through music. And welcome to our very first fiddle lesson. I'm so excited to be here and thank you so much for taking the time to watch. So these fiddle lessons, we're going to have a total of 6 of them, are for kids. So kids, if you're watching, make sure you get an adult. Specifically for this lesson, you need to have an adult around because some of the things that we're going to be doing today are pretty hard for kids to do. And when I was a kid and I was learning fiddle, I needed some help from some adults. Actually, my parents helped me out when I needed some help. A few other things you're going to need for today's lesson. So of course, you're going to need your fiddle. So you probably received in the mail a case which has your fiddle in it, your bow in it, and maybe there were a few other things. So today we're going to take a look at what's in there and what everything does so that you can understand what you have. There are a few other things that you're definitely going to be needing today. So one thing we're going to be learning about today is how to tune the fiddle. And to tune the fiddle, I would recommend that you get on a phone, a smartphone, or on a tablet. This is where you might need some help from an adult, is to get a tuning app. And I'll show you all about that a little bit later in today's lesson. So that'll be very important. A few other things that'll be super useful for you to make the fiddle a little bit more comfortable for you to play. You could get either just a very soft cloth. I have actually a dishcloth with me today. Or you could also use a sponge, a soft sponge. So either or will work. Maybe you could grab both of them and you can see in today's lesson what is most comfortable for you with the fiddle. And to help keep the sponge in place, if you choose the sponge, you'll need a few of these types of elastic bands. And I'll show you how that all works in today's lesson. Another thing that will be very useful, and I'll explain a little bit about this, is a nail file. And this is where you'll also need some help from an adult. So the first thing I want you to do is take a look at your fingernails. Are they long or are they short? For playing the fiddle, you absolutely have to have short fingernails because long fingernails will get in the way when you're trying to play the instrument because we need to use the skin on the tip of our fingers to press down on the fiddle strings. So if you have long nails, you do have to file them down or cut them. And there's another use for the nail file, which I'll show you later. So that would be really helpful if you had that. Another thing that would be helpful for you to have for today's lesson is a pencil. A pencil and maybe a piece of paper as well would be really, really awesome. So if you could get a pencil and a piece of paper, that would be great. I think that's everything you're going to need for today. So why don't we get started? All right, so playing the fiddle is a very physical thing. You need to be using your body. I'm going to encourage you when you play the fiddle to most of the time play standing up, okay? So that you can feel really comfortable. Sometimes when we sit down, we tend to kind of rest on our chairs and everything. So today and for all of our lessons, we'll be standing up, and I invite you to practice. When you're going to be practicing is to stand up. But before you start playing the fiddle, it's important for us to get warmed up and to get moving. All right, so we're going to do a little bit of movement and stretching in our upper body. So let's start with shaking it out. So I want you to shake out your arms, shake them down, shake them to the sides. Awesome. Shake them up to the sky. Great job. Back to the sides and back towards the ground. Shake it out, shake it out, shake it out. Now, sometimes when you play the fiddle, you might notice, oh, I'm feeling a bit stiff. Take a moment, rest your fiddle somewhere, and go ahead and shake it all out. It's a really important thing to do before you start playing to get nice and warmed up. But if you ever feel a little bit of kind of stiffness when you're playing, take a second to shake it all out, because we want to feel really comfortable and relaxed when we're playing. All right, I'm feeling good. Now the next thing I want you to do, we're going to be using your fingers a lot in today's fiddle lesson. So we're going to go ahead and warm up our fingers by wiggling them around. Wiggle them around. Let's wiggle them on the sides. Wiggle them up towards the sky, wiggle them down towards the ground, and back to the sides. And what about right in front of us too? Can you stretch your arms in front of you and wiggle your fingers? That's looking great. Awesome. All right, now we're going to warm up our arms and our shoulders by doing some windmill circles, some big circles. You can go backwards like this. And you can also do the other direction where you're moving towards the front. Awesome. Really, really good. Hopefully that feels kind of like you're warming up your shoulders, because when we play, we want our shoulders to be nice and relaxed. You don't want to have your shoulders popping up like this. You want to keep them nice and relaxed so you don't have any tension in your body for when you're playing. So hopefully you feel a little bit warmed up. The one last thing I want to do with you is just to do a little bit of breathing, because when we take some time to breathe in a really relaxed way, that also helps our whole body to feel really relaxed. So let's give that a try. All right, we're going to inhale. Stretch your arms up to the sky and exhale. So breathing in. And breathe out. One more. Breathe in. And breathe out. Amazing. Now I think we're ready to start today's lesson. I'm sure that when you received in the mail your fiddle case, you probably opened it up right away. So maybe you've already taken a look at what is inside the case, but we're going to do that today to start things off. So I invite you to put your case on somewhere that's very safe. So actually a table would be a really good spot so that there's no risk of anybody stepping on the violin case or the fiddle case, and that you have access to it. So that would be a really good spot, or on a couch or something like that. So I'm going to be holding mine just so that you can see it with the video, but you might need to use a zipper to open your case. I probably don't have the exact same case that you do, but feel free to go ahead and open up your fiddle case and let's take a look at what is inside. So of course, very exciting. You should have your fiddle in there, which is awesome. So that's great. Now I'm just going to set my fiddle aside. I actually have a small bed right beside me, so I'm going to lay it down somewhere really safe here on the bed. Another thing you probably have, I really hope you do, is your bow. The bow is very important to play the fiddle. So sometimes, because you're getting a brand new instrument, your bow might be in a piece of plastic. So you can remove that piece of plastic and you won't be needing it at all. You can actually put it in the garbage or the recycling, and just remove it from the bow and put the bow in a safe spot, please. I'm going to put mine right beside my fiddle here on the bed so it's nice and safe. No one's going to step on it, which is really important. We want to take care of those instruments because they're mostly made out of wood, so they could absolutely break. Now, I'm wondering if you find anything else in your fiddle case. One possibility, and I'm not sure because I haven't seen the fiddles that the Métis Nation of Ontario sent out, but it's possible that in the case there might be a strap. And if there is, that strap would be to connect to the case for carrying it around. If you want to kind of use it as a little bit of a strap, you can hold it on your back. So some fiddle cases come with a strap, so you may have that. If you don't, that's totally okay too, because you have a handle to hold your fiddle. Now, one thing that you absolutely, I'm sure you do have in your case, and it's probably stored in a little compartment towards the thinner end of your case. So I want you to open that up and take a look and see what you have in there. And you should have, I'll show you what I have. here, and yours might look a little different from mine, and that's okay. Mine is round, but sometimes they come in more of a rectangular or square shape, and this is called rosin. So now it's time to learn how to tune the violin. So adults, we do need your help for this. This is kind of a tricky thing to do. We have a tuning app here on my phone, which you can see, and we're going to go ahead and start with plucking the smallest string on the fiddle. So this is supposed to be called an E. So let's see what happens when I pluck this. All right, so really good. We already have the letter E coming up on the screen. That's what we're looking for. However, we want that E to go green. We want the bar to be right in the center and for it to go green. So I don't know, I'll pluck it again. I want you to see that the E is, there's a bar here that's appearing, and it's a little bit to the right, meaning it's too sharp. So look at this. So that's too sharp, meaning I need to loosen the string. Okay, so I'm going to use the tuning peg here. So this E string is connected to this tuning peg. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and loosen that a little bit, and then I'm going to go ahead and pluck it again and see what happens. Wow. So that did make a big difference. I don't know if you remember, but it was all the way sharp to the right. It was quite sharp. We want to bring it all the way to the center, so we're a little closer now. So we're going to go ahead and loosen it a little bit more. We're getting closer. I'm loosening it a little bit more now. Awesome. So now it's turned green. That means that that string is now in tune. So we're ready to move on to the next string. So beside the E string, we have an A string. Okay, so now I've plucked it a few times, and I'm noticing it says the letter G. Now in the musical alphabet, we have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then it goes right back to A. So if we're at G, that means we're below, this is a bit confusing, below the A note, because it goes in a circle. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, back to A. So we need to tighten this now instead of loosen. We're at a G, we want to tighten it to an A note. So now I've found the second tuning peg here, and I'm going to go ahead and tighten that until I get an A note when I pluck. Okay, I'm getting closer. I don't know how clearly you can see my screen here, but we're at an A flat. A flat is below the A. So flat means low, sharp means high. So we're still below, meaning that we need to tighten it to get a higher sound. So I've tightened it again. I'm going to tighten it a little bit more. Now it's saying it's an A, but it's saying that it's flat. Okay, now it's really close. We're super, super close. Actually, at this point, since we are so close, I could finish it off by using this here. This is called a fine tuning peg. So if you're really, really close to being in tune on the fiddle, you can just turn the fine tuning peg or loosen it. And here we go. We got a green A. Awesome. Okay, so now we've got the E in tune and the A. So let's move on to the next one. It's called D. So let's go ahead and pluck it and see what happens. All right, awesome. So we do have a D note here. So I don't know if you see this red line. So we are sharp. If we're on that side of it, that means we are too tight, so we need to loosen it. I'm going to go ahead and use my fine tuning peg again. So if I notice that the letter is exactly the letter we're looking for, I typically will make this small adjustment with the fine tuning. If it's quite a bit off, I'll usually use the larger pegs. The fine tuning pegs only can turn so much. So I'm loosening now, getting better. I'm going to loosen it some more. Loosen it a bit more. Oh, we're getting really close. I saw a bit of green there. Awesome. And there we go. We have the D note. Okay, next we have a G. That's the lowest string on the violin. Oh my goodness. So this one is very close to being in tune. I won't have to use the thicker peg because I can just turn this just a slight bit. So I don't know if you can see, but it's just a little bit below, meaning it's flat, meaning it needs to be tightened, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and tighten the fine tuning peg just a little bit. Let's see what happens. Oh my goodness. So I actually went too far. Now I'm a little bit sharp. So it was just a very small adjustment that was needed there. So now I'm gonna just loosen it a slight bit, and there we are. Now you'll notice I'm pretty fast at this. And actually, typically when I tune, I'm actually playing the violin and I use my bow as well. So I'll just show you. I'm going to play each of the strings just so you can really hear the 4 different sounds. So we have the highest sounding sound is the E. And that's the thinnest string. And the reason it's the highest sound is because it's the tightest string as well. Next we have A. Now as I'm playing, I'm looking, oh, look at that, it slipped a little bit. It's still a little bit under, meaning it's still a little bit flat. So when I tune, I go like this, but you can just pluck it for now. So I can adjust here with the fine tuning peg and play with my bow at the same time. So that's the sound you're going for the A string. Next we have that's really close, but I'm going to tune it a little bit more. For me to see the screen here. Okay, I'm a little sharp. Aha! There we go. So that's where you're going. So I don't know if you can even hear. There's just slight differences in the sound. When you get to the right note name, like if you're at a D, it's not going to be a huge difference, but it's really actually quite important to make sure that the fiddle's in tune. So as an adult, if you're helping your child and encouraging the kid you're helping out to practice, you absolutely need to help them with the tuning before they start to play. It'll make a huge difference. If the fiddle isn't in tune, it's not going to sound right and it could get kind of frustrating. So that's why we need some adult help for this particular part of learning to play the fiddle. So I'm going to go to the last string again. Good. That one was correct, so it did stay in tune. So it does take a little bit of adjustment, and these fiddles you've received are brand new. That means the strings haven't really been broken in at all, and it's very possible it could go out of tune even while your child is playing. So feel free to, tune it a few times in that first couple of days, and then every time your child practices, please help them to tune the fiddle before they play, or else it'll get really frustrating for them. So hopefully that makes sense. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know when we meet in person in our Zoom meetings. Right, so I mentioned earlier that I wanted you to have a pencil and a piece of paper. Actually, if you prefer crayons or different colors, you can also do that too today, because the next thing I want to do is a bit of an activity. I would like for you to draw a fiddle. Okay, and the reason I want to do that today is because I want to make sure that your fiddle has all the different parts that we're going to learn about today. All right, so one thing you could start with your drawing is a nice drawing of this part of the fiddle. So if you can kind of outline this part is called the body. So the body is really important. You'll notice that on the body, we have 2 holes. 1, 2. If you could draw those, these are called F holes. And the reason for this is they kind of look like an F in cursive writing. There's a little bit of a kind of line or a notch here in the hole. So it's kind of a fancy way to make an F, but these are called F holes, and there are 2 of them. You'll notice if you peek inside, if you look inside the violin, you can look at your fiddle, that it's hollow inside. It's hollow, and that allows the sound to resonate in the body of the fiddle to produce and to project the sound so that people can hear it all over the room that you're playing, and maybe in other rooms of your home as well. So these 2 holes are very important because they help to make the sound resonate in the body of the violin. So far, have you been able to draw the body, the shape of the body here, and maybe add in the 2 F holes? If so, that's great. Okay, let's look at some of the other parts. So one of the main other parts you'll see here is this thing here. It's quite long, and this is called the fingerboard. So if you could draw a long fingerboard, and make sure you keep a bit of space for 4 strings. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So the long fingerboard that you have here is where, when we play, and I'll kind of just show you, when I hold my violin or my fiddle, I am going to be putting my fingers down on that long part, the fingerboard. So it starts and it comes all the way to about halfway on the body of the fiddle. So next, I want to show you, if I turn my fiddle a little bit, you'll notice that in this part, above the body of the fiddle, there is something that's supporting the black fingerboard. And this is made out of wood here, and this is called the neck. So I don't know if you're starting to notice this, but we've got the body, and then we've got the neck, which is kind of like our bodies as well. So kind of makes sense if you think about it. So we've got the body of the fiddle, we've got the neck of the fiddle. It might be hard to draw the neck because the neck and the fingerboard are very much attached. So don't worry so much about drawing that. But I just wanted to make sure you knew what that was called. So we've got the neck, the fingerboard, the body. We've got the 4 strings. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now let's keep going up the neck of the fiddle, and I'll show you this part here. So you might want to say, oh, that's called the head. Well, it's actually not called the head of the fiddle. This is called the scroll. And it's got a really, really pretty design to it. So this is called the scroll of the fiddle. And you'll notice there's 4 things sticking out of this scroll. Now, how many strings did the fiddle have again? 1, 2, 3, 4 strings. So each of these strings, if you look at it carefully, is connected to one of these. And these are called tuning pegs. So there's 1 tuning peg for each string of your fiddle. So I'm wondering, in your drawing of the fiddle, now you have the body, you have the fingerboard. I'm wondering, could you please add this top part, which is called the scroll, and make sure you include 4 pegs. There's 2 on each side of the fiddle. All right, let's keep going because there are a few things on the body part of the fiddle that are very important as well. So the next thing I want to show you is this part here. It's usually made out of a light colored piece of wood, and this is called the bridge. I'm going to just turn my fiddle like this because I want you to see that the bridge, which is this light colored piece of wood right here, this one here, is holding up the strings. All right, so it's kind of making a little bit of a bridge there for the strings to rest on. The bridge is a very important part of our fiddle, actually, because we're going to be playing, when we play, we're going to be playing right between the bridge part and the fingerboard part of the fiddle. That's where our bow hair is going to be touching the strings. All right, so now we've got the bridge. I'm wondering if you could add it. Now, it might be a little bit tricky to draw, but if you do something like a line here that's right where the 4 strings are, that will help you to remember that the bridge is about there. And you'll notice it's between the 2 F holes as well, which is awesome. Okay, there's a few other parts. This part here at the bottom is called the tailpiece. So you can imagine, remember we were talking about the neck and the body. Well, at the bottom here, we have this piece here called the tailpiece. It kind of has a long kind of look, a little bit like an animal's tail. And what keeps the tailpiece in place is this little button looking like thing. It sticks out a little bit. And this is called the end pin. So this is the end pin. You don't have to remember all of this, but I would like for you to please draw the tailpiece on your drawing of the fiddle. And you'll notice on your tailpiece, there's 4 little round things right here. Maybe I'll show you a little closer. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So do you remember how many strings we had on our fiddles? 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 strings. We have 4 tuning pegs here, and we have 4 of these round things, and these are called fine tuning pegs. Now these will be very important for us when we tune our fiddles, which is coming up very soon. So we've got the 4 tuning pegs. And finally, there's one more thing I want to show you on your fiddle, and that is this thing here. This kind of oval shaped thing, if you could draw it, that would be great. This is called a chin rest. So when you're playing your fiddle, and I'll be showing you how to hold your fiddle in today's lesson, your chin is going to rest on the chin rest. Makes a lot of sense. It's a good name for it because it describes exactly what it's for. So we've got the chin rest here. So if you could please add the chin rest. So hopefully you've drawn a chin rest, the tail piece, maybe a line here to show the bridge, the 2 F holes. We've got the nice fingerboard. It's a nice long part of your fiddle. And then at the top, hopefully you have the scroll and the 4 large tuning pegs here as well. So please take the time you need to finish your drawing, and you can look at your own fiddle to help you to complete it. You can pause the video and take all the time you need. And you can add a lot of colors if you want to. That's all right too. It's always fun. And one final thing I'll just mention before we finish this part of the lesson is if you look inside the F hole of your fiddle, you might notice that it's empty inside the violin except for one thing, one very important thing, which is directly underneath where the bridge is. And it's a little bit of a round piece of wood, kind of looks like a cylinder, and it's called a sound post. And the sound post connects the front part of the body to the back part of the body, and it helps the whole fiddle to really resonate when you're playing. So now you know all the different parts of your fiddle. Congratulations. I hope you're having fun doing your drawing, and feel free to write some of the names of the parts of the fiddle down if you want to try to remember them. It's okay if you forget them too. We'll be reminding you over the course of our 6 lessons together. All right. Well, I hope you had fun learning about the fiddle, and now we're going to learn about something very important, which is how to hold your fiddle. So the first thing I'm going to ask you to do is to put your left hand on the top part of the body here, okay? And you can hold it just nice and firm, okay? Nice and firm with your left hand. And now, carefully, I want you to stretch out your left arm like this and turn your fiddle upwards so that the end pin is kind of facing up towards the sky. And then I'll ask you to bring the fiddle onto your left shoulder like this. Okay, I'm going to turn so you can see kind of what it looks like. So you'll probably notice that the fiddle is pointing towards my left side, but it's not completely out towards the left. Okay, it's a little bit forward, but it's not super far forward like this either. So it's kind of in the middle. So it's not at the front. It's not sticking right out the front. It's not sticking right out the side. It's kind of in the middle there. Okay, let's try that again from the beginning. So hold your fiddle using your left hand right here. I want you to stretch out your left arm and then carefully turn it up towards the sky so that the end pin is pointing towards the sky or towards the ceiling in your home. And then you're going to bring your fiddle onto your left shoulder. How's that feeling? It might feel a little bit weird, and that's okay because it always takes a little bit of time to get comfortable holding your fiddle. The next very important thing you're going to do is you'll notice I'm just going to adjust my head so that my chin, and it's going to be kind of the side of my chin here, my jawbone and my chin, rests onto this part here, which is called the chin rest. Okay? And I can kind of make sure I'm kind of comfortable just resting my chin there. You'll notice my head is tilting just a little bit towards the violin or the fiddle, just a little bit. So I'm not totally straight, just a little bit of a tilt onto the fiddle. Now the next thing, if I'm feeling comfortable, and this is if you're feeling very comfortable right now in this position, you can try this. You can try letting go of the fiddle so that the only thing holding the fiddle is your chin on the chin rest, in between your chin and your left shoulder here. So hopefully that makes sense. If that's not possible for you today to do today, that's okay. So this week, every day, I want you to pick up your fiddle, okay? I want you to take it out of its case, and I want you to try doing this 3 times in a row. Hold it out, point it towards the sky, bring it onto your shoulder, okay? Make sure you're nice and comfortable there. Get your chin and see, am I feeling comfortable enough to take my hand off the fiddle? If the answer is yes, then just slowly take it off. You might need to kind of keep your hands close by in case it starts to fall and you want to be able to catch it. So try doing that 3 times in a row every day this week and see how it feels. It might get easier and easier. Now you might say, oh, Kelly, you know what? I'm feeling a little bit uncomfortable. I noticed that the end pin is kind of digging into my neck and I don't like that feeling. Well, that is actually the reason why I mentioned you might, some people, not everybody, want to get a nice soft cloth. And as I mentioned, mine is a dishcloth. You could actually place the dishcloth just on the back of your fiddle here and go like this. And some people prefer that. It kind of makes it feel a little bit more comfortable for them and they're still able to do this. So you can just gently place it on top of the end pin here. It kind of curls towards the front. And then you can just get yourself a little bit more comfortable when you're playing. And you can see, experiment, see what works best for you. Now I want to share with you that on my fiddle, I have bought something that I've added to my fiddle. Now you don't need this, and most kids don't need this, but I just want to show you what it is. It's called a shoulder rest, and you'll notice it adds a lot of space between the fiddle and my shoulder when I'm holding the fiddle. I don't know if you can kind of see, it's just right here. So when I'm holding it, it makes it a little bit easier for me to hold. And that's because I have a bit of a longer neck. So when I was in grade 8, I started using this as I was getting a little bit older. Now, if I take it off and I'm not using it, you'll notice that the fiddle, it sits a lot lower because it's directly on my shoulder and collarbone here. So that means when I put my chin on the chin rest, my head really has to turn down. And it ends up happening that my fiddle starts kind of drooping down, which is not ideal. We want it to stay really to the side like this, kind of straight out to the side in terms of the way the fiddle is kind of in the air. So we don't want it sticking up like this. We don't want it drooping down like this. We want it kind of straight out to the side. But of course, as I was mentioning earlier, we don't have it over on an angle like this or in front like this. So hopefully that makes sense. Now, if you're noticing, my neck is a little bit long, I could use a little bit more of a distance between my shoulder and the fiddle. That's why I mentioned you could get a soft sponge if you have one of these. If you don't have them, you can actually get them at Dollarama. They're very cheap. I don't think they're very expensive. A pack, you can get several in a pack. So this is where you might want a little bit of help from an adult to place the sponge on the back of your fiddle. And remember I mentioned that you might need a few elastics. Well, this is where you could use the elastic. So I actually take an elastic and I put one end of the elastic, I'm going to use a little bit of larger one, on the end pin of the fiddle, across here. And then I'm going to cross it on top of my sponge and bring it all the way here. I don't know if you could see, I've attached it here. Now I have an extra thing here as well. This is a microphone that I use for when I'm performing, but I have it attached to the tip here. And you'll notice there's two, the elastic band is holding the soft sponge into place. You could use 2 of them actually just to be extra safe, 2 large elastic bands. But just so I can demonstrate, now I have a sponge there and that can help me to hold it. See, already for me, that's made a difference because of my longer neck. So you can use that on the back of your fiddle. Now, if you want to be extra fancy and extra cozy, depends on how you feel. Maybe you don't need any of this stuff, but if you want, you could use the sponge. And then on top of that, you could use the nice little soft cloth and then use that to hold your fiddle. Okay, so those are all different things you can do just to make yourself as comfortable as possible, because at first it might feel a little bit strange to hold the fiddle. So grab yourself a nice soft cloth, try it out, see if you like it, and you can grab yourself a sponge and a few elastics, and with the help from an adult, you can place it on the back of your fiddle there and make sure you're nice and comfortable when you're holding it. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Once again, if you have any questions, we're going to be meeting every 2 weeks, so feel free to ask me any questions you have about anything I've showed you in this instructional video today. All right, so we're getting towards the end of today's lesson. You learned so much about the fiddle today. So today we got to open our fiddle case and discover our fiddle. We saw the bow in there. We saw that there was rosin in there. And next lesson, we're going to be talking a lot about the bow. But this lesson, we're going to finish off with a little bit of plucking the strings of the fiddle. So now that you know all the parts of the fiddle, I'm really proud of you. Go ahead and hold it out in front of you with your left hand as we were practicing. Hold it up onto your left shoulder. Make sure you're nice and comfortable there. And, you know, if you want to add the sponge or add the piece of cloth, go for it. Next thing I want you to do is put your thumb up towards the sky like this in your right hand. So your right thumb is up towards the sky. Then I want you to gently put it on the edge here of the fingerboard, right by the smallest string, which is called the E string. Now I want you to point your pointy finger up to the sky, and we're going to go ahead and pluck that E string. Oh, that's a great sound. Go ahead and give it a few plucks. Nice. Okay, can we do 4 plucks on the E string? Let's do that together. 1, 2, 3, 4. Awesome. Okay, let's go to the next string, which is called A. Let's go with 4 plucks on the A string. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Awesome work. Okay, moving on. Let's go to the next string, which is called D. And D sounds like this. All right, so let's go with 4 plucks on the D string. 1, 2, 3, 4. Awesome job. Okay, and now we're going to go to the lowest string on the fiddle. It's called G. So let's go ahead with 4 plucks on G. 1, 2, 3, 4. Awesome job. Okay, so now we discovered all 4 of these strings. We really want to get so comfortable with plucking them because next week we're going to be using our bow. So first step, get comfortable with the plucking. So thumb in the air, place it right here on the edge of the fingerboard. Point your pointy finger up towards the sky and get it ready to go ahead, and we're going to pluck each string 4 times. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. Awesome. So what I want you to do this week is every day pick up your fiddle, take it out of its case, get kind of comfortable with putting on the sponge or using the cloth on the fiddle. Get comfortable with putting it on your shoulder. Maybe do that 3 times in a row till you get really cozy and comfortable. Do this thumbs up cool thing, and I want you to practice plucking. So today we did E 4 times, A 4 times, D 4 times, and G 4 times. But I want you to be creative. For example, you could do it backwards. So let's start with the lowest string, G. 1, 2, 3, 4. Move to the next one, D. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's move to the next one, A. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now to the baby, the smallest string, E. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, how old are you? I have no idea. I haven't met any of you yet, but I'm really looking forward to meeting you. So what you could do is pluck each string for each year of your life. So let's say you're 8 years old, okay? You could do 8 times on the E, 8 times on the A, 8 times on the D, and 8 times on the G. Or do you have any siblings? How old are they? So maybe you could pluck for them. Or maybe for any of the adults you have around the house. You could pluck for them as well. So challenge yourself and get really creative about different ways you can practice plucking the strings. And if you want the extra challenge, try to remember the names of the strings. E, A, D, G. If you can remember that, you're going to be really ready for our next lesson next week. All right, everybody, congratulations on doing so much this week. I'm really looking forward to meeting with you in person on the Zoom meeting, and feel free to ask me any questions you might have. And I'm really looking forward to next time we see each other, which is going to be using the bow in lesson number 2. Thank you so much for participating in lesson number 1. You did it. I'll see you soon. Bye.